Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Music Made Me. Thank you so much for joining us once again. We truly do appreciate it. Today we're sitting down with Bryan, the lead singer of Fame on Fire. He took us through his entire musical journey, from a youngster and seeing Eric Clapton play the guitar for the first time, to his first bands in high school, releasing a cover of Katy Perry's Unconditionally, and how that led into the formation of Fame on Fire. It's an awesome conversation that goes through the entire journey, so please enjoy our conversation with Bryan of Fame on Fire. There's a photo I saw of you when you were, I think you must have been about 4 or 5. The band posted it for your birthday a couple of years ago, and you had a little toy guitar strapped to you. And so I just wanted to ask, back in your family life back then, did that mean music was a pretty big part of your life, or was that just a random picture of one time where you had a guitar?
No, music was always super important to my life. Um, my dad's played piano for all my life. He played piano. He played saxophone at one point. He played piano and he sang. A huge fan of like the Beatles and all those classic rock kind of bands. Was always singing, always playing piano in the house. My sister, she wanted to be like my dad as well, and she took up playing saxophone and singing, things like that. And so, being the younger brother, I wanted to do those things. I wanted to be a singer. I wanted to play guitar. When I was a kid, I remember my dad was like watching like an Eric Clapton live concert, and I saw him playing electric guitar, and I was just like, oh man, I was like, I really want to do that. Like that's amazing.
Nice.
And so I said that to my parents. I think I was like 7 or something when I like saw the guitar playing like that for the first time ever. And my parents bought me an acoustic guitar, and I hated it. So I stopped playing until I was like 15. Like I got it when I was like 7, and then eventually when I was 15, I found myself back into guitar and stuff like that, and rock music, I guess, in general. But I sang my entire life. I was in choir since the 4th grade. Since I was allowed to be in choir, I was in choir.
Oh, okay. Nice. And so with that guitar, was it just because it was acoustic and not electric, or did you just not enjoy the guitar in general back then?
It was because it was acoustic. Because as a kid, you don't know how to explain the way you feel about things. You don't understand why this is different from that thing. And so, I thought guitar was going to sound like Eric Clapton did on the TV.
Oh, okay.
But it sounded nothing like that to me. And I was like, what is this shit? I was like, I don't want this. Like, this isn't guitar. And they got me lessons, and I was just like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm gonna pass on this. I don't want anything to do with this. But looking back, I'm just like, wow. It was just because it wasn't electric.
Did you ever get on the piano or the saxophone yourself because your dad and your sister were on them?
No, because so after I would always like dabble on the piano. I was never any good at it though. But like ever since like the acoustic guitar, me knowing that it's like that classical instrument kind of sound, I didn't want to play the piano. I didn't want to play the saxophone either. I didn't really want to play anything. There was a big point in my life where all I did was I didn't like rock music at all. I actually thought rock was stupid.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This was like probably when I was like 10 or so. Like I liked listening to like some pop music was really good. Like I was into pop music, and I was really into Usher.
Oh, okay.
Usher was amazing, and I was really into rap music like Little John and Chingy and Ludacris, those kind of people, like Snoop Dogg, Tupac, people like that. I was really, really into it, especially that like 2004 era of hip hop and stuff. I loved it. Like
Right.
pop music was so sick to me. And so it took me a while to transition back into rock music. And it's interesting, a little tidbit. What really got me back into rock was playing Guitar Hero.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, for sure. And that's what also kind of like transitioned my way into guitar. But it's not what inspired me to play guitar. So I started playing Guitar Hero, and I think it was Guitar Hero 2. And there were some really good songs on there that I was like really into. And I was like, oh, this is sick. I mean, like I really got into like Crazy Train, those kinds of things, like Ozzy Osbourne.
Oh,
Some
okay.
classic, like Boston, classic rock bands I started really getting into, really digging Blue Oyster Cult, the whole nine. So from there, I was like, wow, this is sick. I'm going to kind of just dive a little bit more into the rock music world. And then I started getting familiar with the more modern rock music and heavier stuff. You know, you slowly get heavier and heavier as you listen. You get used to things.
Yeah.
And I started, and the first band I listened to that was like heavy, that was like, I think they did a great job of being like very listenable for like a heavy metal band, was Disturbed. You know, they really bridged the gap between, I guess, classic rock and, you know, that new world of metal that I was about to dip my toes into. And so, you know, and it's funny because the singer of Disturbed, so his influence is definitely Phil Collins. And I didn't like correlate the two at the time, but maybe that's why I liked him so much, because I really liked Phil Collins. So the two of them connecting the dots there, they did a cover of Land of Confusion from Phil Collins. And so that's why it was like very easy to transition over into listening to Disturbed. Which also, it's funny enough, the cover is what really transitioned me. And, you know, I feel like our band does a good job at transitioning people that don't really listen to rock music into rock music, because it's a song that's familiar to them. And they're like, oh, this is rock music. I understand it. This isn't scary, you know, nothing like that.
Right.
But yeah, so listening to Disturbed, got into Avenged Sevenfold, and that's when everything started going metal. So listening to Avenged Sevenfold, I was like, I want to play guitar like this. My dad told me, he's like, look, I'm not wasting money on buying you a guitar or anything like that. Like, you know, he's like, I just don't want to waste my money on it. He's like, if you can prove to me that you'll play guitar, I'll buy you a guitar. But like, you have to figure out a way to buy your first guitar. And I said, okay. So what I did was I would make my mom take me to Costco, and I would make her buy me a bunch of candy. And you know how like it comes in those like big candy boxes or whatever?
Oh yeah.
So I would go to Costco, make my mom buy me candy, and I told her, I was like, I'll pay you back for the candy. And I would just go to school and sell candy out of my backpack for $1.
Really? Hustling way back then, eh?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And that was to save up for my first guitar, which cost like $120. It came with an amp and the whole nine. No name from eBay or whatever, because I actually knew how to use eBay, oddly enough. I mean, like, I guess I was relatively older, so I should.
Yeah. What age were you then when you bought that first guitar?
15.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was either 14 or 15, somewhere around there. Yeah. So I started playing guitar because I wanted to play like Avenged Sevenfold. So, you know, you learn your basic things, but then I started skipping ahead because I wanted to be like, I want to play guitar like Sinister Gates, because he shreds and I wanted to shred. And so I was playing like pretty consistently, like every single day after school. I would come home and I'd play guitar on this combo amp, and my dad would listen to me play every single day. And he's like, okay, you know, you're taking this really seriously. So I think it was like around the summertime, he gave me a choice. He's like, you can either go see your friend Evan in Georgia, or I'll buy you. So either way, he was paying for something. He was either paying for a plane ticket, or he was paying for a guitar.
Oh, okay.
Like, I'll buy you a guitar. What do you want? And I said, I really want a guitar. And he's like, okay, then let's go. So he took me over to Sam Ash, and we walked around, and I played a bunch of different guitars, and I picked up a Schecter C1 Blackjack, which is the Zachy Vengeance guitar. It's the body style of Zachy Vengeance from Avenged Sevenfold's guitar, but it wasn't his signature series. It was like one that they made,
right?
Schecter made, and I still have it to this day. It's a fantastic guitar still to this day. Actually, like the tone of it is insane. And I was like, I don't even know what the hell I was doing back then for picking out a guitar. I just picked out a guitar I really liked, and it sounds so sick.
A really good choice, eh?
Yeah, right. I nailed it on that one. But so I grabbed this guitar and I go home and I plug it into my combo amp, and then, you know, one of my dad's close friends comes over, and he's a guitar player as well, like a really talented one, like, you know, like an old school kind of Fender guy who really knows his stuff. Really cool dude though.
Right.
He was just like, he's like, this guitar's great. He's like, you're kind of doing him an injustice though, of like, you know, playing out of this amp. And so my dad's like, oh, here we go, some more money. And around that time, I started getting into recording, because I didn't realize this. So this is my journey. I'm already deep into metal now. I love all sorts of metal. I want to play I'm listening to Lamb of God, and you know, this is all within a year.
Right.
I'm listening to Lamb of God, like screaming the sickest thing ever. pop music sucks.
You went quickly then into deep into metal.
Like, I don't like rock. 3 Days Grace is too mainstream. I don't like any of this, you know? But yeah, so my cousin was actually in a metal band, which like it kind of slipped to my mind. I mean, like I knew he was in a band or whatever, but like him and I started getting close during this time where it's like I was getting into music because he's like, hey, you're getting into music. That's awesome. He's like, you know, I was in a band, right? And so his band, they were called Scars of Life. And they toured with major acts like Seven Dust, Nonpoint, just all these really big bands. They were signed or whatever. And he came over and started showing me how to record. So that's how I started getting into recording. And this is all within the same year. I'm still 15 during this time, 15, 16 now.
Wow.
And he's showing me how to record, how to like, you know, he bought me my first interface to show me how to do all that stuff, show me how to record guitar. And so I started recording guitar inside of Mixcraft and, you know, not singing. I was not a singer at this point. I was singing in choir. So I had like a really clean singing voice, you know,
right.
Like I had to blend in with the crowd. I wasn't a rock singer. I wasn't anything like that. I didn't have a voice like these rock guys did at the time. So I was recording myself doing the whole nine, and you know, then I joined a band with a couple of my friends. Before I joined the band, I joined a death metal band.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I was in a death metal band in the scene for a little bit. I don't even know how old I was. I was still in high school when this was going down.
Really?
Yeah. I was I think I was like 17 when I joined my first band. So just like 2 years after playing guitar. But keep in mind, I was playing guitar every day. So I was like kind of, you know, in your social circle in high school, I guess, when like people are like, oh, they're a musician.
Right.
Well, you know, my freshman year of high school, I started coming to school dressed in all like metal and like a little bit more gothy scene, like punk style. And so people were like, oh, this guy's a musician. Cool. And so then I guess started making my way up the ranks of the social stature of musicians within school. So like, yeah, Brian's a guitar player. And so, you know, I had this band be like, hey, they went to my school. They're all like seniors. And I think I was like a freshman or a sophomore. Like, hey, you want to be in our band? I said, hell yeah, I'll do anything to be in a band. It's the coolest thing ever. So I'm in a band. Great. All we did in that band was drink alcohol all day and just try to learn our parts, and no one knew how to play the parts.
Really?
Yeah, it was great. And I don't know how the hell we got away with it, but we went to our drummer's house, drank alcohol all day. His dad was never home. And we just played our parts. And meanwhile, while doing all this, I'm still singing in choir. I'm still a choir kid.
Really?
Still in choir, doing the whole nine. Yeah, and that was the first year that I was like an honors choir. So you have to like audition to get into the school's honor choir. They were called Encore. That band didn't last that long. Then I formed a band with my best friend and a couple of buddies, and that band was called Absence of Thought. And that to me, this is around the time where I started getting more away from not so, oh, I only like metal, to like Sum 41's sick. I didn't realize how sick Sum 41 was. And like, you know, there's some really good pop punk that I really enjoyed that I didn't realize was pop punk. You know, I didn't even, you know, back when I was a kid, I thought Blink-182 was pop music.
Right.
To be honest. I was like, I want to sound like these like pop punk style bands. And I started getting into like, you know, the A Day to Remember's, bands like that during this time. And so I wanted to be more like that, more on the trend. And so I made a band called The Absence of Thought. And that's the first band I started singing in, because I was like, who sings? Nobody knows anybody that sings when you're in high school. Like,
right, yeah.
So I was like, I'll sing, I'll do it. Like, I think my voice is pretty good. It was decent. It wasn't anything special. It was just boring. You know, I sounded like a choir kid singing pop punk music in a sense, but it was like pop punk metal influenced. Day to Remember rip-off band.
Right.
And from there, that's when Blake. So I always knew Blake, because we grew up. I always knew Blake and Alex. I was our drummer and Blake, guitar player. So I always knew them. And Blake plays not just guitar; he plays drums as well. You know, he's multi-talented type of dude.
Oh, okay.
So Blake lived across the street from me. Alex lived across the street from me, and they would every now and then they would come hang out at like our practice spot that was at my buddy Justin's house, our drummers, or we would go hang out at Alex's house, like jam sometimes, whatever. We'd always just jam. So one day, I think we were seniors, or it was the end of our senior year, I think. So it was like during summertime. Blake and Alex just show up to my house, and they're like, "Yo, we got to show you something." And I said, "Okay, what's up?" They're like, "Come outside." So I go outside. Alex is sitting in his car, and Blake's in the front seat. Like, and I get it. I'm like, "What's going on?" They're like, "Just listen to this." And they played me like a demo of like something that they're working on, and it's like this song called "Rise and Fall," I think, something like that.
Oh,
Some just
okay.
like cheesy generic name, whatever. And then they look at me, and Alex goes, "You want to be in our band?" And I said, "If I can be the lead guitar player." And he said, "Okay, you're okay." And Blake's like, "Yeah, whatever." So I'm the lead guitar player now of this band, and that was the band that was called You Set Aside.
Oh,
And
okay.
so, and I was like, "Well, do you guys have a singer?" They're like, "Yeah, we got this dude named Pete." And so I was like, "Cool, I'm down to hear Pete sing." So I heard Pete sing. He was a pretty great singer, and I was like, "Oh, this is sick. Dude's pretty talented." And at the time, I started getting really good at recording music too.
Oh, okay.
Or not really good, but like pretty good.
Good
Um,
enough.
yeah. So right after joining You Set Aside, we would jam, go to my house, drink a bunch of Mountain Dew, record. That was literally all day. And at the time, I had a little studio set up. I was really good at flipping. I would just save up money and just flip it.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
when you graduate high school, people give you gifts and stuff like that. I would just sell my gifts and buy studio gear. Um, you mentioned skipping school. It's really funny. My senior year was when I was skipping school all the time.
Oh,
Just
okay.
I was skipping school and going home and recording myself.
Right.
I was going home and learning how to record. I was going home and training myself. But yeah, I think my dad started seeing that like school wasn't really my thing, and that like he knew why I was skipping school. He knew I was skipping school to come home and sit in my room and record myself. So
Right.
literally share it in EQ and go, how does this work? And so he started thinking of like different paths for me in life. Cause as a parent, like you're most concerned. Being a musician is not a realistic thing. Let's be honest here.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's not realistic. And I get it from his perspective of like being scared of that, because it's like you don't want to see your child fail. But at the same time, he was, I guess, he was good enough of a dad to realize, hey, this is what he wants to do. He made me a deal eventually. He's like, look, I'll let you do what you want to do. You just have to have a backup plan. And I said, okay, dad. But so anyways, I was recording myself and then recording You Set Aside. I started getting pretty good at recording during the You Set Aside era. So basically, recording the band, we started playing shows, whatever. I would always miss band practice. It was a weird time, but we were in our like not even 20s yet. We were like 18 years old, just being idiots, sneaking alcohol, recording music and whatnot, and doing whatever we wanted. And we were playing shows, but we weren't really getting anywhere. We went and recorded at like a legitimate studio. That didn't really get us anywhere. So we were trying everything we could, and then our singer was like, he was a nut. He didn't come off as a nut at first, but the dude definitely did way too much acid and way too much like hallucinogens, and just started being a weird like control freak. So what happened is like he would like Blake and I were always usually on the same side with everything. Like Blake, Alex, and I, we were always really, really tight, really, really close. And it was like kind of us against him. And one day he's like, I'm out of this band. And we're like, okay. It was like right before we had a show coming up. And during that time, I was like, okay, I'll sing at this show. And this is also in a time where Blake and I started making some really, really cool demos. Where like some of the demos, if like they're out there somewhere. I don't even know where they are.
Oh, yeah.
They're under, yeah, they're out there like on a SoundCloud or something like that. But you can hear like it almost transitioned into the early Fame on Fire days. But so we started making like some really cool demos and stuff. And we played a show, and I sang in the show. I wasn't a great singer. I always did like the background vocals and stuff like that.
Right.
At those, but I sang at this show. It was cool. It was whatever. I was nothing special though, to be fair. And we were like, okay, well, I guess Blake eventually said, he's like, dude, I'm throwing in the towel on this. And I'm like, yeah, I'm throwing in the towel too. I don't want to do this anymore. So we threw in the towel and You Set Aside. And on that moment, it was like, I decided I didn't want to be in the band anymore.
Right.
I didn't want to deal with it. So fast forward a little bit, Blake and I move out to Orlando and we're going to be roommates. Blake and I are still boys. We're still talking. I decide I'm going to be a full-time producer. My mixing is getting really, really good. Like, I was really happy with what I was doing. Blake and I were writing some really cool demos, because Blake and I would always just work on demos together because it was a fun thing to do. And that was pretty much where, like, it's sad. I was working with different artists and stuff like that people I wanted to record, so on and so forth. And it was a good time. Alex comes up and he goes, hey, like, Alex was still living in South Florida. We were living in Orlando. Alex comes up and he says, yo, I want to do a drum cover of Katy Perry's Unconditionally.
Right.
And I was like, okay, cool. I'll charge you $200 for just the song, the whole night, whatever you want to do. And he's like, sick. So what ends up happening is that him and Blake sit down. They work out the song. At the time we were doing MIDI drums, and so Blake writes out MIDI drums with Alex, and they figure it all out. And so they're like, this is the song. Blake puts guitar on it, and then I come home at night, and he goes, and they're in my room, like, whatever. And Blake's like, yo, check this out. And he plays this song with, like, the heaviest drum parts, like the sickest guitar parts, and like, I'm like, whoa. I'm like, this is really, really cool. And he's like, yeah, we're gonna do a full cover to it. I was like, yo, that's exciting. Who are you gonna get to sing on this? And Blake's just like, I don't really know yet, but Alex was thinking, what about you sing on it? And I looked at him, I go, I'm not a singer. And he goes, yeah, he's like, yeah, but you can sing. I was like, yeah, but I don't sound good. Like, I don't want to sing. Like, I'm good. I'm not going to do it. You guys can go find somebody else, go hit up Pete, our old singer from Youth Side to Side, whatever you want. And so they're just like, okay, I guess Bryan doesn't want to do it. Like, we're not going to force you to do or anything. So like 3 days goes by, and I guess they were like singer hunting. I don't know what was going on. They were looking for a singer. And Blake, like, gets me at a good time, I guess, because Blake really knows how to, like, get his way with things. Like, just
okay.
Bryan, there's literally no one who can sing this. There's no one that's gonna sing this. There's no one, like, and he's just like, you should just sing this, because, like, it's gonna be a full-on cover. Like, it's gonna be really, really sick. And he's like, and I know you can do it. You just gotta, like, push yourself. And I said, all right, Blake, we'll give it a shot. So Blake convinces me to put my vocals on it, and I go into my vocal booth, which is my closet. It was a nice walk-in closet, though. But so I go into the closet, and I hit the vocals on it after smoking a pack of cigarettes outside, because that's what we did. So I wanted to sound cool. I wanted to sound gritty. I want to sound aggressive on this cover. And so I thought, I started looking back to, like, my idols, like Chester Bennington. I'm like, what did he do? And so I was watching videos on Chester's vocal techniques. Like, I just smoke cigarettes. And
that simple.
Okay, I'm gonna smoke cigarettes. Let's go. So I chain smoke a bunch of cigarettes, drink a bunch of tea with, I don't know what the hell was in that tea, but I was cracked out of my mind. And I went in there and did the vocals for the Katy Perry Unconditionally, and it came out great. And we sat down in our buddy Arthur's car, who was our roommate, and we're, like, listening to this. I'm like, yo, this sounds really good. Like, this is definitely my best mix. This is definitely my best production to this day, is this song. And so we're like, okay, wow. Well, cool. Alex, set up the video. So Alex sets up the video. Videographer comes up. We shoot the video in a garage, and that was it. I was like, cool. Alex paid me $200 for the whole project. I got paid to do it. And that was it. And it goes out, Alex Roman, Unconditionally. And long and behold, it got international attention. Or not international, sorry, national attention.
Right.
It got picked up. Some random person found it on YouTube, submitted it to iHeartRadio, and it went on this iHeartRadio Best Cover Contest campaign that we had no idea about.
Oh, okay.
And then so we're, like, getting blown up. Like, I'm out at a bar with some girl, Blake's bowling, and I'm getting hit up by random people that I've never talked to before on, like, Twitter and Facebook, and like, hey, I think you guys are on the radio right now. And I said, what? Like, yeah, you guys are getting played on the radio right now. And I was like, why? I was like, what? I was like, what is getting played on the radio? Like, your cover of Unconditionally. So I call Blake. We all meet back at our house, and I'm just like, yo, what is going on? And he's just like, dude, I don't know. This is crazy. We go to the video and we see it's got like 60,000 views. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, this is more views than any of my bands combined. And like, 60,000 views, that's a lot of views.
Right.
And it was just baffling to us. So we wake up the next day, Alex leaves, Blake and I go sit outside. We're doing our morning routine where we're drinking a cup of coffee, smoking a cigarette, talking to the ducks that are outside. And Blake and I kind of like look at Blake and I'm like, yo, I know I said I didn't want to be in a band, but I think we got to do this. Like, just like, he's like, yeah, we do. Like,
no choice, eh?
Yeah, no, really no choice. And I was like, well, and I go, well, we can't keep using the band name Alex Rome. And he goes, yeah, that's the worst band name I've ever heard. I was like, what do you want to call this? Like, you got anything? He's like, I have a name. I've had it for a while. I was like, what? He's like, Fame on Fire. I was like, it's kind of weird, but I love it. So, and it kind of like, it kind of matched what we were doing in a way too. It's like, we were taking these famous songs and just kind of just giving that like metal, that rock element to it, that flame. So
right.
Fame on Fire, I guess. Blake had the name before that, but it just so coincidentally added up to it. Not to really give much meaning to our name, but it was sick. And so Blake comes up with the name Fame on Fire, and we're like, let's roll with it. And so then we started putting out more covers, more content, and I started developing as a singer. I no longer smoke cigarettes or anything like that. I just now sound like this.
Right.
And yeah, then leading up to everything, we work on our first EP. We released that. We released our 2 singles. We get signed to Hopeless Records, and now we're here with our first album. It seems like it goes so quick, but it did go quick. It's the buildup that was really slow, but once you're rolling, you start snowballing.
Right.
Consistently over 1 million views on every cover now. Like a lot of achievements. A lot of things that I thought that we would never end up doing, but we're doing. We're making a living off of music. I make a living off of singing. Wild.
Well, that's the thing. Like, do you ever look back? Because everything has gone so quickly. Like, you didn't really like the guitar, but then at 15 you pick it up, and then all of a sudden at 17 you're the lead guitarist in a band, and then you don't want to sing, you don't want to be in a band, and then all of a sudden, like a year later, you're singing and you're in a band. Like, stuff has always moved so quickly, right?
It's so crazy how it really, I guess, unfolds. And I think the thing is that I really wanted it too. I didn't really understand how bad I wanted it. But I really wanted it. The decision for me to go, I don't want to be in a band, was a decision I didn't feel good about making. I wasn't like, yeah, this is definitive, but but at the time I felt like it was hopeless for me to continue trying. But the universe had some completely different plans for my ass, and it just threw something in my lap. And when you get an opportunity like this, you need to take it and see how far it can go. And at this point now, it's gone very, very far. We released an album. We've been number 1 on Octane Radio so many times, and like, it's just so crazy. It's really crazy.
And with this new album, talk about your writing, because what was the progression in that? Like, were you writing back in your high school days, or did the writing come more as Fame on Fire developed? Did your writing develop over that time as well?
Yeah. So I was writing back in high school days, being part of my first original band, I would say, not death metal band, because I just played the parts in that. But yeah, I was writing a lot of music. When you record yourself, you write a lot. Vice versa. Right. And so I was writing a lot of music, always writing lyrics, always writing melodies, coming up with melodies. And You Set Aside, I wrote a lot of the melodies as well. Fame on Fire is the same thing, but now we're all more developed as writers. So instead of it just being me who writes the music solely, it's Blake it's Paul, it's Alex, it's all of us. It's also our producer, Eric, who goes by Arceus. We all work on the songs together, the only thing that isn't really together would be lyrics. And that's just because, I'm singing it.
Right.
So it's got to be related to me. But at the same time, the lyrics I will still go over with the boys and make sure everything, the cadences are right, everything works, things like that. I'm not going to be like, no, these are the lyrics and this is the way it sounds. No, I'm going to go over it with the boys because everyone, in my opinion, is a great songwriter now, But yes, I wrote a lot. My songwriting has developed immensely since, being a beginner songwriter to writing with You Set Aside to now writing with Fame on Fire. Because also, the covers help us understand music, what makes music so great.
Yeah, exactly.
So there was a lot of that. And so, it helped Blake understand what makes music great. It helped everybody understand. So, a lot of song ideas, they start with Blake and I coming up with a melody. Blake or I, or both of us at the same time, coming up with a melody. And then, we put the guitar down or we put the chords down. A lot of our songs on Levels started off as a beat that Blake would produce the beat. And he would send me the beat and I would just hit vocals on it, and sing some stuff. And, then we would go over vocal melodies and vocal parts and, but a lot of it started as a beat. Something started as just a vocal, voice memo.
Right.
Like Not Dead Yet was a voice memo.
Right.
So you never really know. It's just, it's just crazy all the different ways that you can write a song, but I feel like we've done a majority of them. But yeah, as of today, as of right now, it is just us in our most refined songwriting state, I would say. We know what we're looking for. We know how to pretty much achieve it. And we're just trying to not lose the emotion on it either, be as emotionally conscious as we can be and as honest as we can be.
Yeah. Is that a delicate balance? Because your songs are very personal on this album to you in your emotional state when you're writing this. And so you want that for your fans, but is it also a little scary for you in sharing that and sharing those emotions?
It is and it isn't. It's okay. So it's more scary sharing it with the band than it is with the fans.
Oh,
And,
okay.
and it's just like when we're working on music, we're usually having a pretty good time with it. When we all write the melodies together, that's easy. That is the easy part. But the melodies need to be an emotional melody. I need to feel the melody in my soul, or else I refuse to work on it.
Right.
Like if the melody seems like some copy pasta, cookie cutter type melody that'll work, I'm not into it. The melody needs to be flowy. It needs to be beautiful. It needs to represent the emotional value of the song. But when it comes to lyrics, the lyrics need to represent the emotional value of that melody. So
Right.
the lyrics will be me just sitting in my bed, just the entire world is gone. Everything disappears except for me and my phone. Just me and my phone and me just listening to the song with like AirPods in. So it's the weirdest thing. And
Right.
I'll like start imagining the concepts of what I want to write about, the lyrics I want to write about. So and then from there, I will either go, hey boys, this is what I want to write a song about. We can read it together. I'll sing through it. Or I'm going to go into my studio, record myself singing those lyrics on the track so they can understand the cadences of it. And then we listen to it and then we'll go over it from there,
Right.
And and the boys in the band really respect that of me. They respect, the decisions that I'm making about the lyrics, things like that. Because they know that, I'm going to be singing it. It needs to be about me. That's the biggest thing.
When you're writing sort of dark lyrics, it's sometimes difficult to write when you're in a good mood, right? Because you're not feeling those lyrics.
Okay, yeah. So so the way we work is we do a lot of rough lyrics. So we'll do just generic lyrics cut from whatever cloth and just throw it in the song just to get the parts down, get the cadences down.
Right.
And track out like a demo vocal with those lyrics on it.
Oh, okay.
I'll sit down and listen to the song, but I'm not hearing the lyrics so much. I'm hearing the melodies. And so it's like, I can't write music when I'm in the room. I can't write good lyrics when I'm in the room with just my boys, with the band. You know, I can't do
Right.
that.
Yeah.
I can't put myself in that emotional, vulnerable state of mind. I need to be alone in the dark, just writing in my head. Like, because I can't. I need to pull myself out of, you know, if I'm feeling good, which I usually do feel pretty good in the studio. If I'm
Right.
feeling
Yeah.
good and it's the daytime, I cannot write good lyrics that day. It's not gonna happen. But at 4 a.m. in my bed, I'm writing great lyrics. So
And at the end of 2020, September 2020, I believe it was, in an interview, you mentioned that you had like 54 demos already done since you released the album. So has that grown even more now to this date?
yeah, it's so crazy. I don't think we're using any of those demos.
Oh, really?
we just keep writing. I don't even know how to explain. Like we have like we have so many demos, so many songs. Like, keep in mind that like the main songwriters are really Blake and I, but you know, in this album, for working on LP2, you know, Paul, our bass player, has really stepped up. He's like, I want to write more, and we said, okay, write more. So we all have our own studios.
Yeah,
So all of
that's
us
the
are
thing, hey?
Yeah. So all of us are writing music and just throwing it in this pot. And now there's like 100 songs of just songs we'll never use.
Oh, really?
Never use. But there's a little list, a very tiny list. And there's about 7 songs on that list right now. 8 songs. There's 8 songs on that list of, hey, these are banging songs. These are so cool, so different, so unique to rock. We're doing them. You know,
Oh,
because the
okay.
thing is that we don't want to do the songs that sound like LP1. We want to do the songs that are going to sound like LP2. We need to push the envelope of rock and the evolution of rock further. So how do we do that? We cannot play it safe. We got to make risky moves, and that's what we're kind of doing with LP2. We're gonna take some risky moves.
Thank you guys once again so much for joining us. We really do appreciate it. And thank you to Bryan for joining us and sharing his fun musical journey. Be sure to check out Fame on Fire's new album, Levels, wherever you stream your music. Please also make sure you are liking, sharing, following, subscribing to us on whatever streaming service you are listening on, and head over to social media and give us a follow there as well. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Just search The Music Made Me and we should pop up. Thank you once again for listening, and we'll see you next time on The Music Made Me.